Good morning. Happy Friday. Well, markets are down, obviously, this morning. And starting out with the NASDAQ futures here, we talked about earlier in the week at some point the possibility of an M-top forming here. And, charts. You want to see charts? Of course. Forgot about that. So it's not as simple or let me say textbook type of setup, but it certainly appears to be setting up here. And the reason I said it's not textbook is the fact that, this came out of this bottoming process and ignited a move. Now, it came right up into the prior high there. And so the market's been churning here. Obviously, last week was just a churn disaster, so to speak, of these wider bars back and forth, back and forth. And, I didn't think of it at the moment other than to be suspicious of yesterday's open that was higher. But with some couple of the FANG stocks sharply higher. And you remember I said, wow, why isn't the Qs making new all-time highs? Which means there had to be some underlying weakness there. And so we know yesterday was kind of a wild day with the sell-off and the big rally. And now, we've got this down open so far. It's just holding in the area of yesterday's low. And so we're going to see if, as we always do, to the start of the day, whether this ends like this, if it ends with a bottoming tail bar, well, that kind of dissipates the possibility of this M-top scenario. And of course, it's got to break through this low for confirmation. But the deeper this gets toward this point, well, it's clear that the greater the potential for this actually breaking through. And then at some point, going down and, hey, it's April 30th, sell in May and go away. Could be come to fruition this year. Doesn't always. In the first week of the month, tends to be, historically tends to be considered bullish. But hey, look, these are seasonality type of scenarios. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen every month. So we've got this pattern shaping up. You've had positive moves from Facebook and Apple. Well, Apple kind of gave it back, gap fill and then rallied. Amazon was up. And so, you've got these generals, but look, the markets over the last, this year, or a good part of it, has been held back by those stocks. So they really played catch up. They weren't total leaders as they have been like last year. So, we'll see how this all ends up. We're starting off the day with this weakness and, this pattern beginning to play out here. And let's clean this up. Where will buyers perceive value in Apple? Well, what I'm going to say, McGraw. Look to the left. Fundamentally, I have no idea. So here's a weekly chart, and I'm saying this in a very simplistic way, looking to the left, but this is not a simple chart from a point of view of the way this is shaped up. So do I have another chart here? I don't want to turn this into a big lesson because it's pre-market, but let's see here. Let's just drag this over for a moment and just forget about the tick because this isn't about intraday. And let's get the spotlight. Just look at this. Look at this. Look at where this is, right, in relation to the prior high. And look at the weekly chart here, and look at the weekly chart of Apple. What did we talk about recently in MT Live? What is Apple displaying? Pop quiz. Maybe it's too early. No. I made it purposely. I brought the Qs up here, not a W bottom. It's showing relative weakness. Look, the Qs have exceeded this high on the rally. Apple is making a lower high. So it's shown relative weakness, and in alignment what I said before about the FANGs having lagged, and those leaders. Yeah. So however, let's get rid of this now. However, this is going sideways at resistance. So just like the market, unless Apple breaks below this low, and yesterday's gap reversal suggests that is a good possibility, but it was a strong move. So unless we see the Qs breaking and we see this break below here, I'm not so sure how far lower this would go as far as value goes, because in reality, it shouldn't go down at all. So it's going to be telling whether it actually does follow through to the downside. Now you can see the wide range bar, this bullish move up and the sideways, but it's at resistance. So we need more information as to look, whether is that going to be an M top? Is Apple going to go down? Will this be a red bar ignored? And so on. So 130, if it goes to 130, it's going to go lower. Right. And, so this is not supposed to break below the pivot after going sideways in the gap up. All right, let's continue. Let me look at S&Ps before we talk about SPX. Beginning of the day. Now, part of our conversation or analysis this week was, and started, with the weekend letter, the market had to tighten up. The patterns had to tighten because historically big moves don't happen from wide whippy bars overlapping each other. They tighten up. What happened? They tightened up like a noose around our necks, right? Intraday for us, for a swing trader, no big deal. The markets are calm, chop, chop, chop. And so yesterday the markets recover and pop up like that. So a correction kind of situation there. And now if this turns out to be a breakout failure, there's support below here, of course, down at the lows, but momentum move. As I said yesterday, if it breaks below here, which it couldn't do yesterday, when it got down there, the buyer stepped up again and it went right back up. So now if this attempt fails, we've got this congestion top in place and there's nothing down below here, because as you can see, the void, none of this matters anymore. What's directly beyond to the left here. So odds are it comes down here. And if it does that, you've got a significant breakout failure. And, we're back to, sell in May and go away. We're not going anywhere, of course, because we're just going to love it if the market, has a sizable correction, which they go down faster. You just got to get on board. So call spreads should be everywhere today. We just hope that there's premium for ones that expire today, of course. And so, things like Apple, that if there's premium up above yesterday's high, should be a no-brainer, for an expiration of a day. So we'll see. 4,200 been rejected twice now on SPX. even though it got a little bit above here. All right. I guess that's just, let's trap the longs. And, it always comes back to, hey, in the morning, where do we end the day? If we end the day with an inside day or a bottoming tail bar that's green, the whole bearish scenario is, we won't break below these lows anyway. Or if we do, it'll be a breakdown failure. So, we've got the tools to interpret whatever it is. But, the last couple of weeks, look at those weekly bars. It's just going nowhere. I mean, look at, not that these are big, but relative to the last 2 weeks, they are. And then all of this, nice size weekly bars. And so the momentum has been slowing and repeating, but this is going to become a critical point. And should it break this, let me back up for a second. So over here, where it looked like it was going to go lower, this was something of significance. Now, I think it's irrelevant if this should break below here. I don't think that's going to stop anything if this begins to break, because now it's further over to the left in the past. And you've created patterns that suggested higher. So the shock element of that's not going to stop there. And there's no moving average, nothing subjective. The 50's down here. So, keep the powder dry. Let's see how this day develops here. So on SPX, I didn't check premium this morning, but look, if this premium up above yesterday's high, just get far enough away with this premium and do it. Down below, just to be safe, I'd see if there's something down here. Because even if it drops there, buyers are going to show up again. I don't perceive that today is going to be some kind of disaster day. That it would break below that. But hey, look, you never know. That's why we have stops in money management. All right. So we looked at S&Ps, we looked at Qs, YM. And my comment in the green room yesterday, looking at really more so the diamonds, was, hey, that's a buy. This thing broke the lows and formed a bottoming tail bar. And it's in this chop. But no matter what we see, where our analysis says something's a buy, based on how we do it, it's got to have confirmation by trading above the high here. So, with this down opening, that's not going to happen. And, if it follows with a red bar down, well, it's just still a mess, but it continues to show distribution. And eventually it's got to break. So just sideways garbage. We looked at the NQs and, this looked terrific. Like it could keep going here. And yesterday was rejected and now it's down more. So the market just continues to trade in uncertainty and being erratic and, whipsaws, break down, back up, break out, back down. So, on a short-term basis, unless you're Quick Draw McGraw, you're got problems in this market. You're getting your head handed to you, so it's just kind of treacherous from an intraday trading point of view. And even from a swing kind of situation, buying this is acceptable. And now, you're like, okay, will it hold here? So on and so forth. What happens when things initially begin to fail. So, all right, bonds are up here a little bit. We talked about that yesterday. It's starting to roll over. Market won't like that if interest rates are going up, but here they're backing off a little bit. So more uncertainty. Nothing definitive is happening here. In other words, all right, it's trying to come down. We talked about the 10-year interest rates possibly pushing up here, and that being alignment with the market getting its jitters in May and so on and so forth, if it can push up toward 2%. So no confirmation anywhere yet, just possibilities. Gold, right? Whipsaw yesterday. I tell you, if you're starting out in the markets like this, if you survive it, in this kind of an environment, that's a big plus because you've been using probably intelligent in some way money management, even though you may not understand what it is. But it's really the kind of market environment for someone starting out to just say, you know what, screw this. I'll go back to whatever. But it's not always like this if you're starting out, so don't get disheartened. All right. Oil. Look to the left. Hit the resistance, is backing off here. The weekly has been consolidating its gains, but overall, it's positive, up here within this range now. And I can keep an eye on this dollar, keeps pulling back here. How the market, sometimes the market likes that and sometimes the markets don't. So keeping an eye on that day to day. Always keeping an eye on short-term interest rates. Of course, this to see if it ever starts perking up, which it's not. And that's a positive. And, the transports, new all-time highs, So if the markets are going to correct, and there's nothing here to suggest this is going to, so that would be a shock. But these are just self-correcting uptrend, nothing to stop it from going higher. And so with all that possible bearish talk, there's no confirmation here. I can tell you, it's getting late. There's no real confirmation from our market internals as to that. But clearly, the markets are dealing with uncertainties about whatever. All yours, Dan. Sentiments. Okay, Jacob. I'll post a chart later.
Good morning. Yeah, so let's today be on the lookout for 0 TTE call spreads. That would be great. Our inventory's actually gotten lighter over the last couple of days. Looks like our opens are okay here. Google down a bit. We've tightened the stop though to Wednesday's low or break even. Just glancing at the others. Fine. Reggie, this was Rita. This was your stock. I said I love it as a day trade short today. It has earnings next week, but that's a beautiful bearish breakdown pattern. Was up a little pre-market, now it's back down, so maybe 5-10 minute low. That looks great. If you have any questions on any other opens, just ask. Marijuana still can't get off the ground, and we knew that. We're not in MJ, but if it can get over Wednesday's high, Cron, CGC, these are all okay. But so now we have a better entry because we're retracing a little bit from Wednesday's high. So now the entry is very obvious, Wednesday's high. We did get into OGI, was the only directional one as a longer term trade. And then the others we purposely waited, which turned out to be a great idea. Earnings and so forth. Naked, bottoming pattern, gapping up. This looks like it could have been a Reddit toy at one time. But it's a nice gap. It's worth watching. Sam V XRT. Never heard of it. Oh, another bottoming pattern. It's had a big move from Tuesday's low, but it's holding. It's worth watching. That's worth it. ABBV. Why was I looking at this? Oh, because it had a bullish gap pre-market. Look at that. It was gapping over the red bar. But now it's retracing, so I got no interest. Mondelez, the only reason I'm showing you this is because they were talking about it on CNBC and then inflation and Mondelez came out and said, heck yes, there's inflation. You know, everything they make, the commodities that they buy to put it into their merchandise is going up, and they made it very clear, yeah, we're going to be passing that along to the consumer. And hence, that's where inflation comes from. Prices going up, things more expensive. We talked about, you know, wheat, lumber, oil, everything, copper, Kellogg's, everything's expensive now, other than computers. I don't know what's up with Clorox. Yeah, see, exactly. We've talked about that, Debbie. I think they just got their talking sheets. And Leonard Cooperman, the billionaire hedge fund guy, was on CNBC, and I was watching the whole thing. He had a lot of marvelous comments, and he hates Warren, Elizabeth Warren. He says she's just off the reservation with her views. And he also said about, you know, the Fed. He's like, we're double the growth than the average 2%. That's normal. And so for them to be putting their pumping all this money into the economy, he says, makes absolutely no sense. And I agree with that. Why is the Fed treating the economy like it's on life support, other than, you know, it's political reasons? Um, I know. Don't get me started right now. It's a beautiful day in South Florida. Blue skies. Let's keep it. Don't get me riled up. All right, Clorox here is a nasty gap. Let's see what it does. So McGraw, that's a no-brainer call spread if it's over yesterday's high. Root, bottoming pattern, but there's no something bar yet. Mott's bottoming pattern, but it does have a something. Today's gap up is the something. It's a big gap, friggin' 45%, but it's worth watching. AZN gapping over, you know, 3 bars, gapping over the week's high. So that's very bullish. Let's come back to that. Barclays here. Barclays said they blew out earnings and the stock's getting clobbered. So see how it's the actual numbers kind of nonsense. You need the whole picture when you're trading earnings. Well, the big daddy, obviously. Amazon blew out earnings, gapping here to all-time highs. They made $8 billion in the quarter off revenue of over 100. I heard something the other day that said they are going to top. They're going to top. Yeah, I guarantee there is. Just Google it. That they're going to top the number of employees over Walmart. That's pretty amazing. I had no idea they had that many employees. WDC, I posted as a long watch. Nice gap here. It's gapping, you know, it's gapping these prior highs, but it's still a beautiful, beautiful gap. I'm going to put that in a window. This gap, FTNT. Big gap at no pattern. We'll come back. 5 in. See a couple prints up here, which will be a gap breakout. So that's worth watching. I'll put that in this bottom right. It's not heavy volume, so it's kind of hard to tell. Skyworks 184. It's a very bearish gap to support. I'll come back to it. Plaque. Gap at McGraw. Here's a 0 DTE trade over this 15-minute pivot. If there's anything here, so I'm going to put that in a window. Black. B Bravo, never heard of this one. Barnes, gapping up. So this could be a 30-minute high breakout idea. No, I was thinking call spread, McGraw. Like I just said, over that closing 15-minute pivot. I don't know what this thing's doing. We'll come back to it. X gapping down, it's range bound, nothing to do. Text, no prints, we'll come back. FTV, same. EMN, it's a bullish pattern. You know, there's not big volume. We'll come back to you, but it's a bullish daily weekly EMN. Same with this. So OMCL. EHTH, I see one print up here. Now another print. The buy setup on the weekly, we'll come back to you. EXCM, bearish gap, not much volume, but McGraw, call spread. Call spread, yesterday's high, 30-minute low. HP, no pattern. Bisler in the tan department, gapping down, 84, no pattern. Now it's range bound. McGraw, Condor idea for next week. Let's come back to that. Frank, that's an incorrect statement, and here's why. You have absolutely no idea where those premiums are going to open. Remember, and market's closed right now. And with the thing gapping down so much, that means the delta is going to get a whole lot smaller. And if it's earnings, there's a volatility crush. So come back to me at 9:40 and tell me what you see. COG here is actually a sell setup. Maybe wait 15 minutes, short yesterday's low. CBX 104, gap down, no pattern. Texas Roadhouse gapping up to 106.50, gapping up $3. We'll come back to you. Sky West, no pattern. MHK, Mohawk. It's in the Mohawks in the XHB housing sector. They sell, I remember, carpet and all kinds of things like that. But it moves with the home builders, and that's a strong uptrend. Hey, Anatoly, your drop down, please. FBHS, it's strong. It's a turning uptrend. This is an ADR, but churning uptrend. Now we got a print here. XOM, actually, 30-minute high. I like this as a put spread. I got WDC in my other computer, so let me put XOM there, 30-minute high. ETH. It had a bullish breakout. We'll keep an eye on it. Calm. Bad call spread, McGraw, if there's anything up there. That's $10 away, so I seriously doubt it. Beezer, no pattern, had earnings. Cross, these are all earnings stock. That's a nasty gap. Wow. Do you remember, folks, where we bought this 1, 2, 3 breakout and had a nice little swing trade there? And this is why we don't hold over earnings unless it's a core trade. But the weekly, monthly is not a core trade, so it never would have happened. Yeah, Steve, all these are earnings that I'm going over. Debbie, top of the range, it's an ADR. I personally have no interest in that, although it's a bullish weekly, monthly also. Twitter getting whacked